Panel is something we're doing that's a little bit different. We put this together as the creators of Pez. We know that there are many, many creators in the Pez community, but we've picked 6 to talk to us today just about how they came up with their ideas, the types of things that they did to create something. So these are people who have, whether it's a convention, a product, the podcast, created something for the Pez community. And we really wanted to do this to encourage you, if you have ideas, or you're trying to get ideas, something that you would like to contribute to the Pez community, to possibly get some ideas on how you can do that. So the way it's going to work, I'm going to go through, I'm going to do a quick introduction of each of the panelists, and then ask a couple of basic questions, and we'll go from there. If you do have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll kind of moderate the whole discussion, and so we can learn a lot about each of our panelists for the day. So I'll start off with introductions. First, we have Landon, probably the host that needs no introduction because you hear from him a lot, as you do with me, but Landon is the co-host with me of the VPC and the Scholarship Fund. He's also created the People of Pez Collecting brand and the trading cards, and he is the administrator of the Pez for Sale, the Facebook's Pez for Sale group. Landon has been a collector for about 20, a Pez collector for about 20 years, but favors the people over the Pez. Today, he's coming to us from Orlando, Florida, but soon you'll be seeing him from New Orleans, Louisiana, because he is moving next weekend. Next is Andrea Gage. Andrea has been a Pez collector all of her life, and if you listen to her show, the Pez Collection Podcast, you know that her purple pony is her favorite Pez. A close second and third are her signed C3PO and Yoda dispensers. Andrea makes up half the team of the Pez Collection Podcast, which is now in its 3rd year and has over 100 interviews of collectors to date. That is a great podcast. If you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend it. There are a lot of really great interviews on there. Mahiba Murray has been a Pez collector for over 25 years, where she has seen much success. She was the founder and hostess of the Pacific Coast Convention for 16 years, as she's the co-organizer of the Lebanese Pez Gathering and a former Pez Head of the Year. Mahiba is an enthusiast for all things Pez and philanthropy. We have Sandy Gardner-Ghionzoli. Sandy is very well known and distinguished in the Pez community. She is the co-host and the grill master for the Pez on the River convention, which happens in September. She has the distinction of the Facebook Pez Head of the Month, the Pez Community Leader Award, the HCO Neighbor Award, and for the contribution that the Pez on the River makes to HCO. She also administers several Facebook groups and is the co-creator of the Frozen Tundra dispensers. Most recently, Sandy is the 2019 Pez Head of the Year. And we have Joe Durant. He is a collector for 27 years. He's attended many Pez conventions, met lots of great people in the hobby over the years, many of whom he considers friends. Since 2001, Joe has been the editor of Pez Head Monthly, which is an online publication that takes a personal and creative approach to Pez through poetry, parodies, recaps, and more. He's read some of his Pez poetry at Pezmania 19 and at the Pig 2 convention. Joe has also been featured in the documentary Pez Heads the Movie and has been a guest on the Pez Collection podcast. And finally, Larry Mason is one of our resident Texan Pez collectors, and he runs the Pez board. Larry has become very well known for his 3D printed creations, especially for his unique displays of feet, displays, and dispenser holders. He is a master artist and maker and a visionary in the Pez world. And he has a website where you can purchase many of his creations, which are great and unique ways to display your Pez. That is the very brief introduction of each of our panelists. So now I would like to open it up with the same question to everyone, and I'll just go in the order that I introduced them. Can you talk a little bit about what you created and what was your inspiration for doing it? So we'll start with Landon.
Awesome. Well, I've talked about what my inspiration was for creating VPC. One night, deep in the quarantine, I was missing all of you, missing all my friends, and I had a few adult libations and was feeling a little buzzed, and I was texting with Morgan, and I said, Morgan, what if we did an online convention? What if we just did it? And what if we did it in like 11 days from now? And she was like, talk to me in the morning when you sober up. because she didn't know if I was being real or not. And I was. And the next day we hit the ground running. And now this is our 5th event that we've done with VPC. And we have no signs of stopping. It's going strong. With other things, it's kind of stuff that just kind of pops in my head. And some of it is successful and some of it falls flat and people don't respond. And if people don't like it, then I just stop doing it. Or if I don't like it, I stop doing it. But if it pops in my head, I always am willing to run it out and give it a try.
Thanks. Andrea, same question. What was your inspiration for the Pez Collection podcast?
Well, I had been in development for another podcast. I was working on another podcast and I'd just come back from a podcast convention and I was all excited. And then I saw on the Facebook page, Justin had written, is there a podcast on Pez, about Pez? And I immediately wrote, no. Do you want to do one? I don't know. I didn't know Justin. I don't know who he was. It just felt natural. It felt like, and he was like, oh, wait. And I said, let's talk. Let's see what we can do. And he has been like the best podcast partner ever. So he does like all the getting people, does all the bookings. And then I do all the post-production. And then of course we interview together, which is so much fun. So we've been doing that for 3 years. Like I said, lots of people. And I think it's just that we both like talking to other collectors, like being able to talk about Pez. Like you get an hour full of talking to people about Pez. That's a great thing to do every week. So it's been such a pleasure to get to know everybody.
Thanks. Now, Mahiba, your inspiration and.
So the inspiration really was Pez collectors. We had not had a California convention for about 2 years. It lapsed. We had one for quite some time in Los Angeles, and the convention ended. And so I happened to go to Cleveland. And at that time, I met with Jill Cohen, who was in charge of the Cleveland Pez convention. She talked to me a bit about the convention, kind of sparked a little interest. By the time I came back and met with a few of the California Pez collectors and my mom, somehow we were all in, and that's what started Pezific, was, you know, just trying to fill a need for especially the West Coast Pez convention collectors. There really wasn't anything, and that's just how it started.
Great,
as simple as that. Yeah.
And Sandy, on to you. What was your inspiration for Pez on the River? Not necessarily being a grill master, but feel free to talk about that too.
When Minnesota announced that they were going to be ending, Cheryl and I discussed it. We couldn't go without one in this area. And so we decided to do one. We talked to the other folks. We bounced ideas around for the name. Everybody liked Pez on the River. And they also wanted it moved from the summer back to the fall when it used to be. So Cheryl and I started it and got a lot of support, and it's going strong.
Right, and it's on eight years now?
Yes. It's going to be, be our 8th year. We were able to have it last year, which was quite an accomplishment, I think, because of the people that came. Everybody was willing to follow all the guidelines, and we had a good time.
Yes, we did. Thanks, Sandy. And next up, Joe. I would really interested to know, back in 2001, pre-Facebook groups, everything else, what was your inspiration for the Pez Head Monthly?
Growing up, I always enjoyed creative writing, whether it was poetry or stuff that was more humorous, or sometimes humorous poetry. I started collecting Pez when I was in college. And then 7 years later or so, I started thinking, why not bring these two things together? The creative writing and my love of this awesome hobby. And so I had written, I had imagined what an interview with the Homer Simpson Pez Dispenser would be like. And so I wrote that out. And it was on my own personal website. But then I happened upon Pezomania 11 in 2001. And that was a game changer for me, my first convention. And so I thought, I can write a recap of this sort of from my own perspective and my own kind of point of view. And then I can also throw in some creative stuff like the Homer Simpson interview and maybe a poem every now and then. And so that's really how it started. And since then, I've sort of, I brought in my Pez experiences to the newsletter, and I brought in, I've tied it into, whether it be a holiday or the Indiana gathering, or just a quote from history. I try to tie it into Pez. I try to keep it fun. It's always been family friendly and all that. So that's sort of how it came about.
Thanks. And last, Larry, and actually on Larry's screen, you can see one of his creations. I have one of these. I love it. I have my 3 dispensers from last year in it. But Larry, what was your inspiration for, I guess first I'd be interested to know a little bit, how long have you been 3D printing? When did you start 3D printing related to Pez? And then just what was your inspiration for making the designs that you do relate with the Pez displays?
It's probably been about 6 years that I've been printing things up. It started because I ran out of space in my Showtime cases, and I needed some way to show my dispensers, carded or not. And so I came up with a design for clips that would go into pegboard. And there's various designs of those. And that's kind of how it got started. And then from there, anything that's got, a strange bottom to it or something like that, where we need a different way to kind of show them, is kind of where I took it from there. So the Looney Tune pens, some stand, the magic dispensers, anything instead of them laying around on their sides, to get them up and displayable is kind of where it took off from there. Some are my ideas, some are ideas from other collectors, like these little teeny miniaturized dispensers. How could we show those? So I came up with a little stand to insert those on and then put the paperwork in front.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, now I'm going to throw this out to anyone. Like I said, if anyone has questions for any of our presenters specifically or for the group, feel free to put them in the chat. But until then, I'll throw this out. So any of the presenters, if you would like to jump in, please feel free. What is a piece of advice you would give to someone who's in the Pez community, who wants to get more involved, who maybe wants to be someone who's creating something and has an idea, but doesn't really know where to begin or how to get involved? They might not be someone who's overly active on the Facebook groups or doesn't know a lot of people. And what advice would you give to help someone who wants to do that?
Well, in what sense? I mean, because my thought is just try it, start something. If you've got an impulse, don't overthink it. Just try it, for sure.
I guess I would say don't be intimidated, even if you don't know a lot of people or you're not overly active in these Facebook groups. There's always the private messages. People are overarchingly very friendly and welcoming. So send a private message if you don't want to do it publicly for fear of, someone scrutinizing or not knowing what you're particularly asking. Just don't be intimidated. Everything starts from an idea, and you never know, it might grow into something different. So I would just say, just ask privately, ask publicly. I'm sure somebody will reach out and go from there.
Because you don't know how it's going to evolve. Like when Justin and I first got together, we're like, well, we don't know that much about Pez, and who are we to talk about Pez? And we kind of went back and forth about that. But then we were like, let's just talk to collectors. So talk to people, like Mahiba's saying. It's a great idea.
One of the themes that I heard as everybody was talking about their inspiration was that the idea of bringing two things together, two of your passions together. You have a passion for one thing, and all of us have a passion for Pez, and you want to do both of them at the same time. And when we started virtual Pez convention, Morgan, you and I are both in Toastmasters, and at the time, Toastmasters was teaching us how to use Zoom as a platform, and it was teaching us how to give presentations and how to control large groups of people and be able to give information to a big group of people live instead of just recording it. And you and I were able to use what we learned with a different passion in our Toastmaster careers and apply it to virtual Pez convention and bring that in. And I think that's really unique. If you're involved in another hobby, like I know Andrea, you know, she was at a podcast convention. She loves podcasting, and she was able to bring the knowledge that exists in that community. It already exists. And she was able to bring it to a group of people that maybe wouldn't have been interested in podcasts unless it came to Pez. And if you bring your passion from something else and you stick it in, like Joe says, like he had his passion for writing. He already had that. He didn't have to create that. And he just applied it to Pez and gave it to us. He gave that gift from another hobby and gave it to us in the Pez world. And I think that's a really cool way to start. If you have two passions and you know that one is already solid and you want to put it in the Pez world, just do it.
Yeah, and I'd also echo what Mahiba said about Facebook groups. You know, if you have an idea or thought, I mean, by all means, log on to them and post them. There was last year, there was a very talented Photoshop artist named Brett Christopher. Some of you guys might know him. He was great. And I noticed some stuff, and he didn't reach out to me, but I reached out to him because I was so impressed with his stuff. And I was like, you know, Brett, this is exactly the kind of stuff that PEZ Monthly was about. And I got him to submit several pieces last year to PEZ Monthly, and that wouldn't have happened if he didn't put his excellent work out there. And don't be afraid. You know, like everyone's been saying, Facebook is a very welcoming group. The Pez groups are anyway. Maybe Facebook as a whole isn't, but the Pez groups are definitely welcoming, and keep that in mind.
And when you go to conventions, talk to the other folks. If you've got ideas, you know, there's plenty of social time. Take the opportunity to just bounce ideas off other people. People will give you feedback, and they may even jump in. They might have a similar idea going.
On that note, when Sandy was thinking about doing the convention, Sandy and Cheryl, I used to walk at 5 o'clock in the morning, which was Sandy's drive time. So I get my phone calls during my walk. She's like, "Hi, it's Sandy. Hi, Sandy. What are we talking about today?" "Well, we thought about this. We thought about that." So, you know, anytime is an opportune time to just reach out. And I think it's worked out fabulously. But, you know, people love to talk about Pez. And so trust me, when you reach out, it's not going to be that, you know, people are going to kind of be taken aback. They'll talk about it all day long. And I miss our morning chat, Sandy.
Hey, we can still do them. I'm up.
Okay.
No, I think that's really important advice. That's one of the things that we heard when we started the VPC, were people saying, "Well, I don't really know a lot of people, or I'm kind of shy and I don't know how to jump in there." But I think you've heard, you know, just these 6 are a very small number of the entire community. We're all saying, you know, just jump in, and people want to talk about it. We share a passion that we can all relate to. I'm just gonna look real quick to see if Chris. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sandy.
I said, if you want, come to Pez on the River in September. And, you know, when we're doing the grill out on Thursday night, perfect time to sit and bounce your ideas off a bunch of people.
It's true. Those social times at the conventions are a good time to get to know people on a much deeper level. They're, you know, people, Facebook, you're just a name and a picture, but when you get to know somebody in person, it's different. It's nice.
And Chris Jordan had a good idea. If the presenters, when you have a chance, could plug your website, your product, your convention, whatever it might be that you want to promote, feel free to put it in the chat so that people know where to go afterward. And we'll make sure that it's on the website. All of the presenters we will make sure that goes up on our website along with the video. So it's interesting. I've had 2 people send questions directly to me to ask you, and oddly, they are almost the same question. So I'm going to ask it. It's very specific, but it's about just the copyrights that we deal with Pez. Now, a caveat saying none of us can speak on behalf of Pez. None of us can offer anybody legal advice, but Have you run into any issues, either as a convention host, newsletter, making the displays that you make, Larry, with issues with copyright? And do you have any advice, or any, just from your own experience? Like I said, we can't, Pez oftentimes won't even give us advice. They will occasionally specifically say, please do not do something, but they often won't tell us. So we can't tell you, but I would be interested if any of you have had experiences with that, how you've dealt with it, and just some general advice you can offer.
Yeah, so I definitely have, and some of you that have dispensers from the Pacific Coast Convention will notice this. There was one year, I believe it may have been 2010, maybe, when we did the regulars that were issued by Pez Company. So they offered, we were one of the conventions that was able to tap into that fantastic perk that they provided. However, they weren't comfortable using Pacific Coast Convention. They didn't want to make it into a word, so to speak. So if you'll notice on the dispensers, it says Pacific Coast Convention. So they didn't want to use Pacific. With time, Pez has evolved, and that was pretty early on. And with Sean Peterson being there, they've grown to understand the collectors and the conventions and how strong of a following there is. And since then, any other convention dispenser we've had done by the company has said Pacific, but there was a year that we had to put Pacific convention on there. So a lot of you that have those dispensers, I don't know if you've paid attention or not, they came in the cello bags, and I believe they were the regulars, 2010, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the one year that we didn't have our specific name on the dispenser, and that's because of something at Pez that they weren't comfortable doing. So it worked itself out. At the time, we were just happy to have a dispenser for our convention, and it wasn't of consequence, and no one seemed to care. They just wanted an official dispenser from Pez, from the convention, and it worked out fine. Anybody remember that dispenser?
I have that. I mean,
Yeah,
I wasn't
I
there,
do.
but I have it.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any of our panelists?
I'm going to recommend that you stay away from duplicating any candies. We ran into a little issue with that, and just recommend that may be a no-no for you. So we learned that one quickly and stopped what we were doing. So and it's scary at first. It's scary when you put something out there and then you get a no. But I also recommend, don't be afraid of getting a no. Like, don't let your creativity stop because you're afraid of an answer. Like, go try it and see what happens. But
What do you,
yeah.
Andrea, what do you mean by duplicate candies?
We had printed a dispenser that had a big candy with the ear pods on it, but inside of it, we had made little plastic candies that said good on them, like dispense some good. And that's because those are too close, and they're plastic, and a kid could choke on things like this. We were just so excited about them, and what a great idea and a great concept. But then we got shut down by Pez. And I appreciate that. I'd rather be given a boundary, and we tried something, and so we stopped. We want to be good by Pez as well. So I want to be on their good side for sure. Yeah.
I used to run up till recently ran the Florida Pez Heads party. And my first year doing it my second year doing it was the year of Pop came out, the Pez Pops came out. And I painted some Pez Pops to give away as prizes and things, and then I repackaged them. And I learned that when you repackage them, then the liability is going back to the company. And so anytime you're doing something that's going to put liability on the Pez company, you're automatically at risk for getting it taken away. They don't know what kind of paint I use. They don't know if it was food safe. And ultimately, this is a candy company. This is a toy that, they make a dispenser, but it's for candy. So if someone's going to eat something that came out of a dispenser that I painted and it wasn't food safe, that could cause a liability problem. And it wasn't even something I thought about when I did it, but it was something that I was taught about. And now I can tell others, don't do that. Don't repackage. Don't alter it and then repackage it in the same packaging, because then it looks like too much like a Pez product.
So I've never heard of from Pez in terms of you know, hey, why don't you stop doing that kind of a thing? But it is definitely on the forefront of my mind. Even though I'm creating, you know, new content. I mean, a lot of it will be like, you know, a Pez Photoshop or something. But and you know, the main motto of Pez Monthly is think outside the dispenser. But there's also another motto that's on the bottom of every page, and I do some videos too at the end of every video, and it's enjoy Pez, but please do so responsibly. Now it's very vague, and I admit I kind of ripped it off of a beer commercial, but you know, I'm very conscious of it, and to be completely honest, I in the past I've entertained the idea of maybe compiling some of my poems into a book, but then I'm like, okay, is that going to get a cease and desist? Should I not do that? So, in some respects, it's kind of held me back, and it's sort of on my to-do list is to talk to people who have written Pez books, and maybe we can talk offline about maybe the kind of successes you've had or the kind of communications maybe that you've had with the Pez company in getting your non-official Pez books out there. I will say that we had I was part of a Pez Visitor Center tour back at the Northeast Pez Convention. We got a tour of the whole factory. It was great. At the end, I met the president of Pez at the time, Joe Vittoria, and I had a paper copy of one of my newsletters there with me, and I was trembling as I was giving it to him because I'm like, what if he looks at this and says, "Yeah, you're going to need to shut this down"? But he just kind of smiled and looked at and took it, and I never heard from him or anybody else at Pez, so I guess that was okay.
How fun.
I know you have to watch when you write Pez to make sure it's not like theirs, the all capitals. That's why like Pez on the River, it's the small p or capital P, small e and z.
Yeah.
Because we were warned about the copyright for that.
We
Yeah,
always,
I don't
we
know.
always
You
put
can't use
disclaimers.
say again, Mahiba?
We always put disclaimers, like if you look at our t-shirts or on our website, that this is not affiliated with the Pez company, that type of thing. So we always put, you know, the smallest print we could find, but big enough for someone to acknowledge that it was there. We would always try and make sure that we put that on there, because that was always a good fail safe in a way as well, to acknowledge that this was not endorsed by Pez, nor was it a Pez affiliated convention or that type of thing. It was just a collector's convention. But I think Sandy's right also, as long as you don't write it in a way that's too similar to the company, then you should be okay as well.
Someone had asked there if we were contacted Sean Peterson about moving forward. I did when I was first doing the logo, because we had, at first I had us on dispenser stems, and it wasn't that we couldn't, but he was still like, you know, he was, I think, being nice, you know, but I took the hint, and so changed up the logo. And so, you know, he'll tell you. Yeah.
Again, it's better to ask than to have to revamp.
Yeah. Yeah, that took me a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, again, I just want to point out, because we are going to put this up as recording, none of this is true advice. We can't speak for Pez, but this is all very good general advice to keep in mind as you go forward, if you do want to create something. I mean, the other thing, it seems more obvious, but stay away from the Pez font. That is definitely one thing that very quickly, that's something that we don't use on any of our VPC related things. I've been very tempted, but I never do. Just stay away from it. All right, well, some of the questions in the chat are just clarifying. I know I saw earlier before a lot of people asking about conventions in the South and the West Coast. So, you know, there are needs there for those of you who may not be on our panel. There are needs all over. I saw the Pacific Northwest, so keep that in mind. But another question to our panelists. You've all talked about some of the, you know, the great things that have come from your what you've been doing, but what are some of the challenges that you have faced in developing your idea, carrying your idea through, and getting people on board with it?
Well, I think you know, when you actually do a convention, it takes a village. It's not any one particular person's convention. You know, the Pacific Coast Convention, was always a California, local SoCal, California collectors, effort, so to speak. I was, the main person, and then everyone volunteered and helped. And that's a big challenge, is finding the support and the manpower. And I would have to say that the California Pez collectors were fantastic in helping out when it came to the crunch and to the time of and those types of things. So I think that's a challenge that you'll find with a lot of projects, whether it be Pez related or not. You need to find support. You can't do it alone. You can't go it alone. Initially, it might sound like you can, but it takes a lot of work with a lot of people. So I think collaboration is a big thing that a lot of people would need.
Yes. Conventions take a lot of prep. I mean,
Mhm.
we're planning for the next convention before we even have the one for that year, and that without the support and people offering to listen and give input, you're SOL.
Mhm. Even running a small gathering, which for all of you who are saying you would like a convention in the area, let me suggest putting together a gathering and seeing how it goes. Just, invite 10 or 15 people over, have dinner, and, all bring your extras to sell or trade or whatever. Great way to start and lay the base and see what kind of input you're going to have for a future convention. But even when I did my small gathering here in Florida, and I mean, we had 30 people in my house, and I know other people are doing gatherings, some bigger, some smaller. It's hard to do by yourself. And so if you have someone in any of your projects, I'm sure that Andrea could agree that even in her podcast, like having Justin takes pressure off of her, but having someone that you can rely on when you are just not able to do it, either you're not physically able to do it or you're just having a bad day and you don't want to deal with it, having someone else to rely on to be able to take up some of your slack and be able to do it. VPC wouldn't have happened if drunk Landon just tried to do it by himself. Luckily, the person I was drunk texting that day was Morgan, and she was able to agree to do it with me. And we would be lost without her. You guys would just be listening to me ramble for 4 hours every single time. But if you find someone that can support you and hold you up when you're gonna fail, then you're gonna be really successful. And also to just accept failure and push through it. It's gonna happen. You're gonna mess up something, and it's okay. You're not gonna make everyone happy.
Justin was a great support to me, and editing the podcast actually take quite a bit of mental energy and technical skill to try to get it all to go. And I have background in that, but there's times when I just don't have the bandwidth to do it. As you know, I'm already 2 weeks behind, right, guys? And everybody has been so sweet about that. And Justin has always had my back about that. And when he's going through something, I have his back around that. So that has been just someone to normalize. Life happens. And we have the intention to share with the Pez world and be part of it. So, we're going to keep going. It just might be that we miss some now and again. Oh, and I'm just going to say, can you tell I'm in my brother's Lego room. So it runs in the family, these collections. People are like, is she cheating? She's not, she's cheating on Pez in the Lego room. Yeah.
At the chat real quick to see if any other questions have come up. A couple people, these are more generally about conventions, just asking about places to find out about conventions. And I just want to jump in. I know this isn't necessarily a question for the panelists. The newsletters, signing up for the newsletters that are out are a great way. I don't know if they still do it. At one point, Pez would put them on their website if they knew about them. And then Facebook is a really great place to find a lot of information about a lot. I know we, just as a virtual Pez convention, post all the time. I don't think you can miss our posts. We're in a lot of the groups, and I think a lot of the conventions do that. So that's a great way to find out if there's a convention near you. And just asking. If you ask a question in any of the groups, someone will answer you and direct you.
On the front page of our on the website podcast, I have a one from last year. I need to update it. So if anybody is having a convention or a gathering, I'd love to know about that so that I can gather that and get that printout so people can just download that. We can keep that updated too.
Chris Jordan does a good job of keeping that in her.
Great job.
Yeah.
And if you follow Virtual Pez Convention, Morgan and I are going to try to be at every convention and gathering that we can and cover it for those that can't be there. Your news reporters on the scene, we're going to try really hard to be there and give you virtual tours of what's going on. We did it at Pez on the River last year, and it was really successful and really great. And it got a lot of exposure both for Pez on the River and for Virtual Pez Convention. So it's good for everybody to be able to do those. So if you follow us, we're going to promote the heck out of those other conventions because
Well,
we
you
want
might
you
have,
to.
I was gonna say you might have to be there because Justin and I have never met, and we're going to Pezomania, so it'll be the first time
Yeah.
we meet.
Oh, we should do like when you're getting your wedding photography done and you see each other
The
for the first time.
Look.
We should do a first look video for you guys. I think that would be the
Oh my God, I would love that.
We will make
I
that
think we could
happen.
probably make that
Heard
happen.
it here. Heard it here first. at the
Justin's like
Virtual
breaking
Festival.
news. Yep.
Yeah.
I made it slip. Sorry, Justin.
Yeah. We'll have that live somewhere. That'll be live somewhere. You can watch
Yes.
live reactions of Andrea and Justin meeting each other for the first time
Oh yes.
in person.
So another question for the panelists, and this might be more applicable to some than others, but in general, when you look down the road, either next year, 5 years, who knows, what things could you see coming for the project that you work on, or do you see kind of coming up in the Pez world in general? You can answer either one, something that you are thinking of doing, would like to do if you want to reveal it, or just things that you see happening.
Go ahead.
Start with
Okay.
Mahiba. Go ahead.
Oh, Mahiba, go.
Oh, okay. I know there's been a lot of chatter about the Pacific or West Coast Pez Convention. Just to let you know, there has been a little bit of talk. My mom's in one of these boxes somewhere. Let's see how the world, transpires after the next year or so. But we're feeling like a reunion. So I don't know, don't quote me, but I'll put it in the universe. And then I have taken some of my experiences, and this really doesn't pertain to anyone here that I know of, but if it does, that would be great. I've been doing Pez gatherings in Lebanon. I actually found some international collectors. So the international world, I think, is a place. I know there are a few in some countries, but it's endless limit, so to speak. I never would have thought, I've been going to Lebanon back and forth my whole life, that I would have met Pez collectors in Lebanon and have a gathering. And one of my favorite coffee mugs, this one here from our first convention, is so cute. It's amazing. You just never know. The world has become so small that the possibilities are fantastic. So where I see it going, I don't know, but I think it can go anywhere. I mean, you just never know. Just keep your eyes and ears open. And with so many things changing, anything's possible.
There was the question, do shops in Lebanon carry Pez, Mahiba?
They do. They used to actually have the cards that had Arabic on the back, but they've since gone to the European model. So they don't have the Arabic writing on the back anymore, unfortunately. Those cards are harder to come by, and a lot of them have candy leak at this point. So the struggle is real, right? But yeah, they do sell them there, and endless hunts. My parents, they're such troopers whenever they go every summer. If I'm not there, they bring home a whole suitcase full of Pez. Whether I've got them or not, they're bringing them. So my parents are fantastic troopers. My mom's in here somewhere, so shout out to Camelia. She's the #1 enabler. But there's Pez everywhere.
But most of all, not only am I an enabler, I miss the people. I fell in love with the Pez people. And that's why I'm such a great enabler.
There it is, guys. Maybe there's a reunion in the works. You've all been asking, so we'll leave it at that. Say no more, Mom.
Is Dad gonna have the
Do I need to
card?
put her on mute now? Do we have
Yes,
to
put
cut
it
it
back
off?
on mute, Morgan.
I think Landon was gonna go next. Was gonna jump in and say something kind of about where you might see things going, either for your event or in general.
Well, I always talk about where Virtual Pez Convention is going. So I think everyone has a clear understanding of that, and you'll hear me talk about it all the time. But some of you probably remember my People of Pez Collecting trading cards. We did 2 series of them. Series 1 had 50 collectors, and Series 2 had 18 collectors. And kind of like baseball card companies do, sometimes they reboot and come out and they release the same same people with the rookies and the, some of the veterans and some redo cards. And once I get my act together after the move, which is a big move for us, I can guarantee you that people with Pez collecting cards will be returning. It will not be a new series. It will be a whole new set. So anyone who wants to be in it, there's going to be, I learned a lot of lessons doing the other two. So there's going to be a lot of guidelines to be on it about, what kind of picture you can take and how naughty that picture can be, Tom Zelmer, and how, how we're going to be able to pull it off. It takes a lot of organization, so I'm going to pull in some help to make me do it. For virtual Pez convention, to the moon. We're going to do it forever, as long as we can. As long as you guys are willing to come and sit for 2 or 3, 4 hours with us, and we have nearly 200 people sitting here almost a year later. So I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I can jump in and say I agree with that with virtual convention. Coming from someone who thought this was going to be a one event thing, and here we are 5 events later. I think we'll continue. I did get a couple questions specifically for one for Andrea. Who is your dream guest to have on your Pez Collection podcast?
I'd actually like to talk to Jerry Steinfeld.
That would be awesome.
That's one of mine. I'd like to have him, even though it's the one little moment, but I'd still like to just talk with him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Joe, we had one directly for you. What is your favorite Pez poem or limerick? Keeping in mind, this is recorded and posted, so, and children are on. But your favorite Pez poem or limerick? Do you have one that sticks out to you?
It's tough. I did a count a couple of days ago. I've written over 350 Pez poems. Now,
Wow.
150 of those are haikus. So those are 3 lines. But I mean, I've done limericks. I've done a lot of poems that I guess you can call them poem parodies, where, for example, The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, I did a whole I retooled it entirely and all about a Raven Pez dispenser. And I kept the same rhyme scheme. So, I mean, it's really tough to pick. There is one that I do like, and I printed it out, and it's short, so I can read it right now, if that's okay.
Sure.
But I've always liked this one, and I wrote it on New Year's, at New Year's Eve, and it's about starting over, and that this actually might have some meaning for what we're looking at now with hopefully maybe not the end of COVID, but the chance for us to finally get together. It's called New Beginnings. The 12th Pez candy is dispensed, the last one of the bunch. Those candies, once alive, intense, are gone with but a crunch. The chamber that was full one time is now a barren place. The hopes and dreams, once in their prime, have left without a trace. Let not this chamber go without. Do not deny it share. There's other Pez to have, no doubt, and not a one to spare. To end this darkness and suspense, more Pez shall now be sowed. Another 12 to be dispensed, another 12 to load.
Oh,
I love it. Thank you. That was great.
Nice.
I highly recommend going to his website and reading. They're so delightful. They are so delightful, his work. Really, go and read his stuff.
Thank you, Andrea.
And you also have the
we're gonna
best
have to-
sweatshirts.
Yes.
Comfy.
Someone asked
Morgan, I think
what,
we're gonna have to add Joe poetry moments to VPC events.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll pen you in for everyone.
Sure.
Yeah.
We did have a question for Larry. Larry, what is if you can think of, I know you've done a lot of projects for people, but do you have a favorite project a custom project that you've completed for somebody?
Yeah, the Han Solo and Resurlight was exciting to do. Don't know if I've got a picture of that. I'm having troubles with my camera. So
Yeah.
this project started out, excuse me, with just an idea that I had to take a Han Solo and do something with it. And I saw the wonderful work that Penny does, so I asked her to do the antiquing of it.
They're so beautiful.
And she said, wow, that's pretty cool. I'd like to have one. And I said, okay, well, I'll send you 2, one for you and one for me. And then it kind of got around, and and we kind of opened it up to, I think we did 25 of them or whatever. So it just kind of mushroomed. It really wasn't anything I was planning to do, but it sure caught the interest of quite a few people. I have another project underway right now, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. And
Okay.
but I think if anybody goes to Pezomania, I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised.
Ooh.
So stay tuned for that.
That is exciting. And I'm just going to point out, even though he's not our panelist, Drew has his right with him, Drew Lepper. He was holding it up. So if you're on a gallery view, you might have to scroll to find him, but Drew is holding the Han Solo up in what he's in. I'm not a Star Wars person.
I'm also going to say for what Larry does with the printing, I needed something that to be able to like Velcro on so that Pez could hang on it, and he designed one for me. So if you got some other ideas for him, contact him. If he's got space and time, I'm sure he'll entertain the idea. I hope I'm not speaking for you, Larry.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah,
I would highly recommend checking out Larry's website. If I don't know if it's in the chat, we have a lot of chats going on, so we'll make sure, like I said, that all of the presenters, if they have websites, they get featured both on our website and in posts. Larry has one of my favorite things are the frames for cards. It is a really great way if you have carded Pez, sort of there they are. They keep the edges nice, they keep them protected. It's a great way to hang them. They just look cleaner. They are excellent in addition to everything else. So a lot of really unique ways to display Pez. I would recommend checking it out. Yeah, Joe's showing his Batman display.
Yeah, I still use those clips that I bought from Larry at the first or second Austin Pez convention. That's when I met Larry for the first time, and he sold me those clips on a pegboard, and I bought a pegboard and a frame from him, and I still use it to display.
A lot of the stands that I do, I just kind of throw in as bonus items for people. Just the Steal from Bob one, their Pez Angel. The bunny lady.
Always got to steal from Bob.
Just it's kind of fun for me to give something to other collectors that kind of reflect who they are. So I just kind of like giving out to people. But so if you got some ideas, you want something built or designed or whatever, just look me up on Facebook somewhere, or go to the website, and I think there's a kind of a request or comment kind of section there. You can put something in.
All right, thank you. And one last, so we are coming close to the end of our time. We have one last question to go through to ask all of our panelists. It's a two-parter. Someone wanted to know what your favorite dispenser was. I think that's a question for everybody when they're doing a tour. So we want to first ask, what is your favorite dispenser, and what is your favorite thing about either Pez collecting in general or the thing that you are here talking about, what you have created? So dispenser, and then the favorite thing that you've created and about collecting. So we will go in the order again that we introduced. So we'll start with Landon.
My favorite dispensers are, I've kind of grown accustomed to liking the pirate ones because I perform as a pirate. I dress up like a pirate and do shows. So the Pirate Pal I like Captain Hook. I like the way how creepy he looks. I think he wasn't supposed to look that creepy, but he looks even more creepy now. Not as creepy as Tinkerbell, but he looks pretty creepy, and I like that. I like people have done customs of pirates for me that I really love. Angelo did a gremlin dressed like a pirate for me, and I've had a few people make my pirate character. Some of them have been like full body with clothes on, and others have been, like taking the PAL and making it look more like my character. And that's so cool to me. And I forgot the second part of the question.
Your
already.
Favorite thing either about, I guess, VPC, the trading cards, or just collecting in general?
Well, the trading cards, and I know a few people don't know what those are, but they were basically trading cards that had a collector on it. So when you went to a Pez convention, you could have a reason to go up to a new person and say, can you sign my card? And it had a little fact about them. So you had an icebreaker automatically built in. And it's just a way for people to get to know each other a little bit better. And the VPC, they have the same goal. It's to bring people together. And my favorite thing about Pez collecting is the people I've met, people who are my best friends that I would call on in my times of need, my times of worry. They're all Pez people, and it's kind of weird. And it's weird when I go shopping with them at Pez conventions, because we all want the good deals and we all want the best stuff. So when we shop with each other, we kind of become frenemies because we want to buy the same thing at that cheap price, and we storm the room and we kind of tiff over those things. But then as soon as we're not shopping together, we're the best friends in the world. And you could probably ask 95% of the people on this call today to help you with something, and they would, if they could. If they have it in their power, they will do it for you, and they'll follow through. It's just pretty amazing. Pretty amazing to have a community like that. My other collecting communities are not like that. They're different.
So Andrea, to you, favorite dispenser?
Y'all know my favorite.
There we go. Yes, that was in your.
I've had her since I was a kid. She's original. She's my little baby. And then I used to work in Industrial Light and Magic, so I was able to get Anthony Daniels to sign one, and I've got a few others like Frank Oz and a bunch of other guys. But that was a delight for that. And I'm with Landon. It is the people. I love talking about Pez and love collaborating with Justin about what we're going to talk about, and bringing in topics, different things like mental health issues, or just to get to know different people, talk about race, talk about all sorts of things, different things to expand people's minds around Pez as well, and the inclusivity and that part I really love. And someone asked about how many subscribers we have. I don't really keep track of that too much, but what I do know is we have close to 22,000 downloads over 3 years, which in a podcast thing, that's a small little niche, but I think it's the best niche ever. So I'm very, very proud, and I'm proud to call myself a Pez podcaster too. So yeah.
That's awesome. Right, next, Mahiba.
So, well, my favorite dispenser is is the baseball Pez Dispenser, because I'm a huge Red Sox fan and they went through a very large drought with the World Series. So I had always said, when they win the World Series, I'll go ahead and buy it. In 2004, had to buy it from Joe, and I very proudly display that every baseball season. But everyone knows, I think, that I have a very extensive Pluto army. That's absolutely by far my most favorite collection. And I have to say, and I'd like to pay tribute to Kathleen Iovino. She recently passed, and her family was gracious enough, and they sent me one of her Plutos, and I'm shaking. This will be one of my most cherished Pez dispensers in my collection. She was a very dear Pez collector, and that leads me to then saying, what do I enjoy about what I've created or what I've done is the community, the people that we've met and connected with, far and beyond any other type of collector group, or, it's just such an eclectic mix of people that you never would really think that you would meet. But this Pez world is quite extraordinary. And I think we've met some great people, and a lot of great people have connected. And it's the sense of community, I think, that I really enjoyed. And I love the people. And yeah, that's it. So I just want to say thank you guys for having me on as a panelist. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Next, Sandy, your favorite dispenser and your favorite thing about the Pez on the River or collecting in general.
Oh, favorite dispenser is kind of a hard one, because I like them all. I've got a couple that are special. After I had my stroke, a friend and her daughters took a giant Darth Vader and made a doctor out of him. And then another Pez head decided I needed a doctor on site and sent me one of the vintage ones. Those are pretty special to me. As far as Pez on the River, it's the community. It's the people that come, the people that take and do try to help out with the different things. It's just the family. It's not just a Pez convention, it's a family reunion for your chosen family. Pez on the River, with all the people, the group that we have that come, it makes it all worth it. all the work. We love doing it and that.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's just a very special time. It makes all the sleepless times getting ready or during the convention worth it too.
And then it's over like that.
Thanks, Sandy.
Yes.
Joe, you're up next.
Well, my favorite dispenser is Batman in all its forms. Maybe in the future, VPC, we can do a mini tour, but you can see sort of a view here of the official Batman Pez, and then I got a bunch of fantasy Pez. And I've gotten so many of them from very talented artists in the community. I've learned to do basic stem swaps myself, so it's hard to tell here, but there are Valentine's Day Pez, all with Batman on them. I definitely don't want to forget this one from Mr. Ken Foster. This is a Batman encased in resin, and it's very, very cool. And that has definitely a spotlight in my Pez room. So that's my favorite dispenser category, I guess. I can't really talk what everyone else has said about the community being such a big part of this hobby. It really is. And I mean, I've been going to Pez conventions for 20 years now, all over, and it's just every convention I go to. It's great. I will say for my newsletter, I like keeping Pez on my mind, and I like keeping Pez sort of tied into what's going on, because I'll be honest, my day job has always been a little dry, and so when I step away from my day job, I like to get creative, and Pez is always there. It doesn't really matter what time of year or what movie I might tie it into or what event. It doesn't matter. I always like to keep creative and with the newsletter, or with the website.
And last, we have Larry. If you could tell us your favorite dispenser and favorite thing about what you create and about collecting in general.
My favorite dispenser is probably the baseball mitt, which I had as a kid. And then when I moved to college, Mom threw it away or put it in a garage sale or something. So that's kind of my holy grail item. And as far as what I'm showing there is a stand I made for Kathleen when she was in the hospital. I didn't know her. She was on the Christmas card list that we participated in this year. And I found out that she is a big Pluto collector. So I stopped what I was doing and put this together and sent it off. And the family wrote back later that it really brightened her day. So if I can do something,
We got you, Larry. We're with you, baby.
sorry. It's a great bunch of people. And if I can make somebody happy just for a little while, it's all worth it.
You do.
Well, thank you all so much for participating. I definitely think ending on that theme is also something that we as a virtual Pez convention have tried to bring to all of you, that it is so much more about just, the toys or pieces of plastic or those things that we agonize over displaying. It's really about the people and who you meet and getting together to collect and to share a hobby and really get to know each other. So thank you all to all of our panelists. Please feel free, again, there have been a lot of chat going on, so please feel free again to put your link down in the chat. We'll make sure they're featured afterward. And like they all said, everyone is willing to talk. Everyone is willing to offer, to engage. So if you have any more questions for them, either message them here, or I believe they are all on Facebook. So thank you all.